Yeah, that's where I had them, was 6. And again, like, wouldn't be surprised if they're 4th in this division. There's a lot of guys who can have bounce back seasons. Their subtractions of this team kind of worry me a little bit. Like, Tyler Toffoli was their best player last year. Lewis was a good bottom 6 guy, and I mean, I don't know if they're going to miss Lucic, but we'll see. But there was one subtraction that was very good for this team, and that was their coach. And I think that is going to be a huge turning point for this team. But what that does create in my mind is early season jitters or early season issues with a new coaching staff coming in, and a team that, has it in their head when they're going into the season, I've got to be better this year. I've got to be Jonathan Huberdeau of the year prior. I've got to be Nazem Kadri of the year in Colorado. I've got to be better. Like, all of these players have that in their mind, and that's going to be tough going into this season, especially with a new coach. So I think the first 2 months are going to be shit. And that's what I was really worried about when I looked at this team in the rankings. I think that down the stretch, this team could be really good, and I'm interested to see what they can do. Again, a lot of guys that need to turn things around, but I love the D-core. Always have loved Calgary's defense. For the last 10 years, they've had good defense. And then goaltending, like, Markstrom used to be one of the best goalies in the league. He's got a fantastic contract. So if he can get back to that level, that'd be great. But man, they've got 3 good goalies. So we'll see which one of them really takes the reins here. But for me, Markstrom's got to be the guy again. This team should be able to score a lot, but again, they're missing Toffoli. They brought in Sharangovich to replace him. Don't know if he's that guy. So it's just a ton of question marks. I think it's going to be a rocky start to the season, and that's why I had them behind Vancouver and Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different look team this year, subtracting Toffoli, adding a Sharangovich. But different look just in the sense that I think they got a bit younger and faster too. Guys like Jacob Pelletier going to be able to play ideally a full season with a coach who knows his name and what number he wears. So that will be nice. And then Matt Coronado as well. I think both of those guys will inject some speed and some life into that lineup and hopefully provide some depth scoring. And then the back end remains exactly the same. Case, you mentioned it, top 10 back end in the league, maybe top 5. Like, it's really good, despite what you think of some of the contracts. And then in net, 3 good goalies. I have a feeling Vladar is probably going to go out the door at some point, because Dustin Wolf is, one of the best, if not the best, goaltending prospect right now in terms of both his ceiling and just how good he is right now. He's been tearing up the American League. So he's going to get a legit shot this year. And I don't know if he's waiver exempt still. If he is, that would be perfect. It would be a situation kind of like in Carolina, where they have 3 guys and Kochetkov is the 3rd guy and he's waiver exempt, so he's able to go up and down. But I think the goaltending will be fine. I don't anticipate Markstrom being as bad as he was last year, because I do think that he's still the starter. But the backup position could be dicey in a good way with a little bit of internal competition. But yeah, just looking at this team, like, it's hard to imagine them finishing in the 6th spot, because I think all signs point to them having a bounce back year from guys like Huberdeau, Kadri, and even some guys on the back end too. But at the same time, this division is going to be so complicated, and it's going to be so tough to predict, I think, even at the midway point of the season. So I could see them finishing number 6. Could also see them winning the division. I don't think that's crazy to say. Like, I don't think Edmonton, LA, Vegas have a lock on those top 3 spots. So again, like, that's why this division is fun to talk about this year.
Well, they've got a lot of guys playing in contract years this year, and that could lead to them overperforming like unbelievably. But I was thinking that if this team is not a playoff team come the trade deadline, they're going to be the most interesting ones to watch by far. You can see Backlund get traded. You can see Lindholm get traded. And then basically everyone on defense is, Hanifin is up and Tanev is up and Zadorov is up. So it's going to be pure chaos, I think, if this team is not a playoff team come the trade deadline.
Oh, I hope, honestly, for Toronto's sake, that they're out of it so that Brad Treliving can go to their decor and just pick the piece he wants. Whoever it is on an expiring contract, come on over to the Maple Leafs, because their decor is solid, man.
It is. And, for Calgary, I think that they are the NHL's wild card team this season. Like, we don't know what to expect. We all, think that they should have a bounce back year for sure. They definitely underachieved. It was certainly a disaster with the coach that they had there, Old Man River and Daryl Sutter. But this team just needs to go out. They need to just have a quiet year. They need to have fun and just play hockey. And I feel like that the culture is already getting back to being better with Craig Conroy now as the GM and Ryan Huska taking over as the head coach. Mark Savard was also added to the coaching staff. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he's a very smart hockey mind and was a great player. So curious to see how he helps the offensive aspect of the game with this team. But yeah, they need to have some younger players be injected into the lineup and provide some life. And I feel like the Peltiers, the Coronados, the Walker Dewars of the world, those guys will certainly do that. Looking at the back end, I love a player like Rasmus Andersson. I feel like he doesn't get enough respect that he deserves as one of the most underrated defensemen in the NHL. And the way that he has been talking about the team going into this season, they recognize that a lot of people are doubting them after last year, but they're prepared to just go out and have a fun season and just kind of shut out a lot of that noise that's been around the team for this last year and a bit. So I could see Calgary finishing third. I could see them finishing sixth in this division. Anywhere in there, I've got the Calgary Flames, but it's going to be interesting. And I agree, at the trade deadline, if they're out of it, they could be kingmakers for sure, and it could get real interesting in Calgary. So, but yeah, I guess for the sake of where do we put them for our rankings here, I guess we've got to put them at sixth, but could see them finishing as high as third.